Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Gulfstream. Today, Ron Nicoletti along with Ashley Mayu. And it is a beautiful day here in South Florida. It sort of makes me want to sing sometimes when the weather is this nice. But we're going to have, of course, a fast main track. The Tapeta is all weather, so it's always fast. So that's a great thing about it. And nice day of racing yesterday. And we'll get into the Stronach 5 payoff a while down the road. We can actually show it now if it's up. If not, we'll show it during the lightning round. But we can show it twice. If it's not there, oh, there it is. $11,400.
We're just talking about the week prior. The biggest horse was $9 and something in terms of a win payout, and the two legs at San Antonio really made that payout. So I wish I would have had $11,497.
I think there were 7 or 8 tickets. It's just amazing. Now, if you do some handicapping and you go with the $5 horse and the favorites at Laurel and you spread, if you're one of those type players, you can get it really rewarded, almost $11,500. So thanks, guys, upstairs. I was going to save it for the lightning round, but it was too good of a payout not to show it early on in the day. So first race is going to be on the Tapeta. First race is where we have 2 pick 5s a day, and you put a ticket together.
Yeah, put a ticket together. Haven't been lucky the past couple of days here at Gulfstream Park. We'll try to switch it around today. Just go too deep in the opener. I was torn between the number 6, Barbara, and 8, Blame the Vets. I think they both look really live in the opener. Race 2, I'll use 3 horses, Look Up to Heaven, the 4, Happy's Nice Candy, as well as the 7, Ala Turca. Race 3, I spread again. I used the 3, Breakthrough, the 4, the Virginian, who I thought ran a really good race last time out on that cutback, returning to a sprint distance, as well as the number 5, Discreet Tune. I know my lesson is I've learned it. Can't leave out Carlos David. And then I single. I've been pretty good. I've singled Safi a couple days now, and I've done well. So I single him here in race 4. I think the scratch of the 1 really helps this horse's chance. I go to the number 2, Alara's Lady, making the 3rd start of her career. And first off, a little bit of a freshening. Then because I had that single, I spread once again in race 5. I thought this was a wide open race. I'll use 3 horses in here, the 4, Till the End, the 7, Charm El Sheikh, as well as the 8, Cramden. So $27. So this is a late early pick 5 for me.
Yeah, that's very good. We were almost in agreement until we got to race number 5. I went a little different way in there. But, yeah, no, you've been doing good with your singles. And as you mentioned, this is still a learning process with this Tapeta. You don't know what to do with it. I think once these horses come around and start facing each other again, it'll get a little more formful. But it makes the racing a lot of fun here. So with that said, let's look at this first race. And, boy, you could see 4 to 5. I really like this horse this afternoon, the number 8, Blame the Vets. And I'll tell you why. This one was beating her neck in her $35,000 career debut in the grass. Drops. Debuts on the Tapeta today. Stalked the pace, finished 4th. They stepped this horse up last time out. I want to go back and revisit that horse at this level, $35,000 level in its debut. Going to pick it up from the 3/16 pole home, number 1 this day. And you can just see, typical trip. You got to wait on the grass to try and get a place to run. The horse was trying to go on the inside. It just looks like it was not the place to be, and tips out here 4 wide. And I think runs pretty well here in its debut. Then you see here the horse has to go out. Just one of those trips that I thought this run ran exceptionally well. Now they stepped the horse up, maiden special weight. Didn't run badly this time. Tommy Proctor. 2 for 3 so far with the Turf to Tapeta. So that's pretty good. And I thought that race, the last race wasn't that bad either, the 4th place finish. But I wanted to show the debut.
Yeah, and the debut, I think there's something to key in too. Was favored, but was beaten by a 13-1 shot, and right behind it was a 50-1 shot. So it was an interestingly run race, but ran a really good race. And you mentioned stepped up last time out, but I still think held her own against deeper waters. So I think in here she makes a lot of sense. She's going to stretch out from 7.5 to a mile and 70 yards. To me, it was really hard to distinguish between her and Barbara.
Yeah, I would never leave Barbara off my ticket. The horse you do have on top. He's going to wear blinkers after shaking off traffic on the backstretch to finish 3rd. Was beaten only 3/4. That was going 7.5 on the turf. Of course, if you're not aware, 7.5 on the turf here is around 2 turns.
Yeah, and honestly, I've actually played her in her last 2 starts. I saw the debut. I thought she had some issues. She had to tip wide in there, and then I was kind of disappointed 2 starts back. That was against Maiden Special Weight Competition, who won that race. Saturday Night Girl, I believe, is trained by Tom Proctor. We'll look to try to, I guess, turn the tables on the other Tom Proctor trainee in here. Then last time out, stepped up on that drop to this level. Seemed to need a little bit more distance. Kind of had to steady and check at one point. You mentioned blinkers on. Look at her races. She was most forwardly placed last time out, so I think they might even send her a little bit more today.
I had a little interest in the number 5 Paintbrush. Who's going to try to Tapeta today after rallying on a good main track to finish 3rd in a 7 furlong debut. debut for Bobby DeBoni. Worked her sharp. He got a 5 furlong bullet. That was a drill on a wet, fast track. So, Bobby DeBoni, I mentioned this yesterday a couple of times. If I bet him, he does. He doesn't win. If I don't bet him, he wins. So I'm just going to throw him somewhere on the try ticket. I agree with you. The race goes between the 6 and the 8, but you also, and I did, use the 7 a little further down.
Yeah, Mia Rose, the debut was okay. Actually, we just finished right behind Barbara on the debut at the $35,000 level. I know the barn's 0 for 11 here with the stop, maiden second time out. I believe they had a horse that raced second time out yesterday that ran pretty well.
Yep.
So I don't mind this horse second time out. They paid $15,000 for her as a yearling, and just for me, was under-respected, didn't take any respect, and ran an okay debut.
I think that horse won the first.
I believe
yeah,
so,
the
too.
5 horse, because I remember Pete Waslick, I said, "How you doing?" He said, "Good now." So I knew,
Yeah.
that's how I knew that he had won the first race. We're going to flip the page and go to race number 2. A 6 furlong maiden claiming 2-year-old fillies, 12-5, and this is on the fast main track. And we'll start with your horse, the number 7, Ala Turca. Was hoping to get away from the gate in a timely fashion this afternoon after hesitating at the start prior to finishing a rallying third in front of the horse I have on top, and that's Look Up to Heaven.
I thought it was a good debut. You mentioned hesitated at the start. Obviously, that kind of hinders your chances, especially when you're going 5.5 furlongs. And the winner, Kingston Queen, was just much the best. Drew clear by 6 lengths, so she really didn't miss second by much. The barn, they're 7% with maiden second time out, but I like the Daredevils. I like how they've been running. For me, it's the connections, second time out improvement. Again, we flip-flop here. I think these first few races on the card, there's a couple horses that stand out. I know you go to the one, Look Up to Heaven, as your top pick in here.
Yeah, just a speed play for me, stretching out to 3/4 of a mile and wearing second-time blinkers, which I like after pressing the winner, failing to finish 4th, going 5.5. We mentioned that was behind Ala Turca last time out. She breaks from the rail. I think she's got the speed, needing to use the inside post to her advantage. Always got to break sharply out here. But think if this one breaks sharp, and the track is listed as fast and plays the speed, this one could be dangerous. Once again, like we said, we got our top 2 flip-flop. And what about Happy's Nice Candy? You got to put, I think, and the reason I did was put a line through that debut, 25. I think 12.5 might be a good spot.
It was the debut, didn't really show much. Okay, one excuse. Now you got to hope there's some improvement here. Chantel Sutherland climbing aboard for Happy Altar. As far as the works, that race was back on July 24th. I think the works have been steady. There's been some nice work sprinkled in there. I can see 3 since that race. And Chantel, I mentioned she's climbing aboard for the first time. She's been riding really well at this meet.
Let's go to race number 3 this afternoon. This one is about 5.5 furlongs on the Tapeta. Allowance optional claimer 3 and up, or the optional tag of $25,000. No scratches or jockey changes. Not a lot of scratches on the card. We don't get many scratches now when we're dealing with the main track and Tapeta. So Pete, I think, has got to give back a little part of his salary. He's got a little easier job this afternoon. Just joking. Pete does a fantastic job. So here you go. You got Discreet Tune and you got the Virginian, as you said. So let's go back and look at their last race. We'll pick it up from the 3/16 pole home when Discreet Tune holds on over the Virginia. But I think if you go back and look at the sheet numbers, I'm sure the 4-horse, your horse that day, today, this day, the Virginian, the 2-horse ran maybe a better race, just can't get the Discreet Tune.
Yeah, couldn't get to him in the end, and it was a little different for the Virginian. He was exiting a couple mile races. He cut back to 5/8, and typically in some of his races, he's a little bit more keen early on, and he wasn't. He was trying to make up that ground late. So, we kind of go in different directions, but using that same key race, I was just really impressed with the Virginian. But I mentioned the 5, Discreet Tune, Carlos David. I can't count it out. Going to go for 3 in a row here with this one.
Yeah, posted back-to-back 5-furlong turf victories. So Sammy Camacho going for 3 in a row for, as you mentioned, Carlos David seems to be the now horse. The horse you're putting forth and the horse I have in second, Malroe. 2 of this horse's 4 career victories were on synthetic surfaces. Shifts to the Tapeta today, hoping the surface switch sparks a wake-up call. So I was just curious. I said, when will these races run? And it was back in 2017 where this horse won back-to-back races on a synthetic surface. So it's been many, many years ago. So I'm thinking that, a price of maybe 8-1 or something like that might be the way to go. But 2 or 4 of its races on the synthetic, as I mentioned way back in 2017.
Yeah, and this is one of two for Jenna Antonucci in here. Last time out, certainly disappointed. I mean, finished last in that field. That was going 5 furlongs over the good turf course against 12-5. My thing here, though, is if you go back 3-4 races ago, this horse is consistently there. Ran a nice second to Frenchman Street, who came back to win next time out. I love seeing Edwin Gonzalez in the irons. I think he's an aggressive rider who we mentioned after he had his injury. Took him a little bit of time to get back rolling, but he just had a 4-win day the other day. He's been riding lights out, so I think the rider change might be what this 7-year-old needs.
Yeah, and I mean, for price, I think like you did, you got to use it on your ticket. Now, you did use the number 3 horse in here, who I have a little further down, and that is Breakthrough in this one from the 1C Avila barn. And got the drop, tried, overnight handicap competition last time out.
Unfortunately, though, he had to try them on the dirt on the slop. So that's why I draw a line through that effort. He was kind of on a roll for a bit. I know he was picked off earlier this year out of the Wesley Ward barn, and that was the race that he broke his maiden. He's already picked up 2 wins since then, and you mentioned 2 starts back. Thought it was a pretty nice second against that group, so I like him getting back to this level. And, of course, synthetic will be the question for him. He's only had 1 start over it. You have to go all the way back to Turfway Park a while back, and I think now he's a better horse.
And we have the same super boxed around a little bit, so we've been thinking a light early on in this card, which I don't know if that's good or bad. We'll see how it is. Let's go to race number 4. 5.5 furlongs on the fast main track. Maiden claiming fillies. 2-year-olds, $25,000. Had a scratch in here of La Boquinilla, we'll say. How's that sound?
Yes, the Jose D'Angelo training is scratched here.
Yeah. Lara's lady looks really tough in here. This is your single in here. I know you have a stat on Mr. Safi Joseph Jr.
Yeah, we'll just start with the stat here for Safi. Just kind of looking at his numbers. I wanted to see how he does maiden special weight company to maiden claiming the past 2 years with his 2-year-old specifically. Pretty big numbers here. 7 for 20, 35%. 75% in the money with a $2.44 ROI. So she's tried 2 cracks at the maiden special weight level for Florida breds. Her debut was pretty strong. She was the pace setter in there, and she tired to finish second, beaten by half. Then last time out, she was forwardly placed, but she just quit in there. It was kind of an interesting effort. You look at the runner-up, My Sassenach. She won a division of the Florida Sire Stakes, the first division for the 2-year-old fillies, and now they've given Lara's lady some time off.
Yeah, Edgar Prado went to his nose a little bit yesterday. Just goes to show you one of the all-time great riders. He'll be back in the saddle this afternoon. Looks like strictly the one to beat. And as you mentioned when you were talking about your ticket, with the scratch in the number 1, I believe that horse has a better shot in here. You went with the number 5 in second, and this is a daughter of Big Brown. Boy, you don't see that very often, at least here in South Florida. Debuting for Ronaldo Riches. 10 local workouts showing. Maybe that 3-furlong drill was the one that sold you on this one.
34-3 is pretty speedy. 2 for 30 for Lady Wood. That was on October 3rd here at Gulfstream Park. But prior to that, I thought the 5-furlong work was respectable as well. So they've tried some different things. A sharp work here just 6 days ago. The connection's 14% on the year. I just think when you start looking, you looked at the rest of the field. To me, Lady Wood and Good Trouble were the next horses to use.
Yeah, Good Trouble has a claimant tag sliced in half after back-to-back 5th-place finishes against 50 maidens. Gustavo Delgado, Edgar Zayas handling the class relief, and it's as simple as that. Drop down, good connections, Edgar Zayas. So, like you said, I think Lara's Lady's the one to beat, and then underneath these look like the logical two with that scratch. You're only dealing with a 5-horse field.
Yeah, it's only 5 horses. You mentioned Good Trouble. This is a /1/2 in the claiming price. Raced at 5.5 furlongs last time out. The one thing I'll mention, looking at the pedigree, they paid $30,000. The stud fee's only $10,000. This is a half to Chief Istan, who was a stakes winner in his career, 5 for 9. And then Gustavo Delgado, I've been playing him a lot. He's been, getting me some winners, getting me some second-place finishes. So I like the way the barn's going. They're always ones you have to look at.
Yeah, he flies under the radar, but you can get some nice wins with him, and that's Gustavo Delgado. And he is like we call him the Spanish Bob Baffert. He's out there dashing with his gray hair and everything like that. So just as a joke, of course, we'll take a short break. We'll come back, show you my Rainbow Six ticket this afternoon. welcome back. It's Ron and Ashley. Saturday afternoon, fast main track, all-weather Tapeta track. So the Rainbow Six should be cruised all the way through with good conditions. And let's take a look at my ticket today, $43.20. And this fifth race is where I was joking before that we're a little different in here. I did go with my long shot in here. That's the 2 Utrid. I also used Cramden and Super Jaguar is the speed of the speed. And I saw a horse go wire to wire yesterday, and a couple of speed horses run good on the Tapeta, so I threw that horse in. 3 deep in race number 6. I used first-time starters really as the main one. I went with KC Jeep, Son of Noble Bird, debuting for Bobby DeBono, Make It Big from Safi Joseph, also Risk versus Reward. In race number 7, lost my top pick with Hard 10, so I ended up using just God's Blessing in number 2, Camp Pendleton with Edgard Zayas. 3 deep in our feature race of the afternoon is the Oakland Park. Harry's on the Loose has just been going so good here. I'm looking at everybody around the country, and everybody's picking Wind of Change, the Brazilian bred, so we'll see how that plays out. But I also use I Am Free. And race number 9, New York Style, Swaggy George. And in the 10th, the 3 classic film, An Eye of the Temple. I wish I had a couple of more in those final legs, but I wanted to keep it at 43.20.
Yeah, 5 and 6, the first 2 legs here, we're very different. We'll be hoping for Cramden if I'm alive in the early pick 5, and you're going to kick off the Rainbow Six here. And then race 6, we have a little bit of a different opinion as well, but I thought that was a wide open race. It is maiden special weight competition on the dirt, but everything else, we're pretty much on the same page.
Well, as I mentioned, my long shot today, I believe, is 12-1 on the morning line, and that's Utrid, who's debuting on the Tapeta today after closing to finish second. Again, similar quality, going a mile on the grass. Let's go back and we'll pick this one, just up from the top of the lane home and show you that I thought this horse ran very well, being an English Channel gelding. And, had to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide in that race. I thought ran a pretty good race, and this horse just seemed to explode in the stretch and run pretty good. So I'm hoping I see the speed of Super Jaguar. I see some other speed in this race. I think maybe the setup is good for a horse that likes to come from off the pace this afternoon. Albeit I'm showing you a turf race, and this is on the Tapeta. So that, of course, comes with, the reasoning you're getting 12-1. Lionel Reyes in the saddle, one of my favorite jockeys for bringing home my long shots that I picked. So I went basically, it's closes against the speed.
Yeah, he caught my eye. You can see I used him in the 4th spot in this race. I just thought last time out, really liked the way that he performed. He had some off performances, but when you kind of look at his form, he can be inconsistent. The 12.5 level last time out, though, he seemed to really get a great trip. It was only Lionel Reyes' second time aboard him, so it seems like they're driving now at this point. And when you look at this race, I mean, when we watch the replay, the horse that I liked in that race, who quit like a freight train, was Charmel Sheik, who I'm going to go with again today and hope that maybe just had an off day. He had a big performance 2 back. So you look at that race, obviously, these horses kind of knock against each other quite often.
Yeah, Charmel Sheik had speed, along with Super Jaguar, who has speed, so I thought maybe you look for a closer. Now, we're both in agreement with the number 8 in here, Cramden, who also likes to run, maybe not on the lead. Maybe this one sits in the pocket right behind the speed today.
That's what I'll be hoping, because when you look at his win last time out, or you go down the page 4 or 5 starts back, when he's just off the pace setter, 2nd or 3rd early on, just a couple of lengths off, he has his best performances. You look at him this year, he's already a 2-time winner, but last time out, he got a perfect trip from Miguel Vasquez back aboard today. I always watch that combo, Mark Cassie and Miguel. They do quite well here at Gulfstream Park, 20%. In terms of trips, I talked about Charmel Sheik, probably going to the front or going to try to again. Cramden, maybe right off of it.
And one of the closes, I went with 2, maybe the 4 till the end or something like that. Last race, was way back and closed to be 5th last time with Chantal.
Yeah, he'll be closing till the end. We'll see if he gets up for a minor piece. Last time out, I thought he would have a little bit more. He actually exited the barn of Safi Joseph Jr., went to Jorge Delgado, who does quite well with new acquisitions. Just really couldn't fire in there. Going to get a new rider today. Who is it? Edwin Gonzalez. And when you look at his races this year, he won one. He was disqualified. Edwin was aboard that race, and then 3 starts back. A really nice second while facing tougher.
And we'll just keep being different here. And go with the number 10, Super Jaguar, who's going to the Tapeta with the speed needed, really, to lead this group on the Merry Chase. The concern is there's been 3 front-running victories on the surface so far. So if this one gets to the lead and the track is favoring horses that could run up there, Super Jaguar is going to be on the engine along with your horse in here today. So maybe it sets up for a closer. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out in race number 5. Race number 6 this afternoon. afternoon. 7 furlongs, maiden special weight, state bred 2-year-olds. Real nice betting race in here. I went with KC Chief. You went with the number 5 horse in here. We'll start with Bird Note.
Yeah, Bird Note's a second-time starter for Bob Hess Jr., so I wanted to show a stat here because I was looking into the numbers for the barn. There's a lot of first-time starters here that draw the inside. 2-year-olds, second-time starters the past 3 years. Bob Hess Jr. is 5 for 24, 21% in terms of wins, 50% in the money with $1.96 ROI. And when you look at the debut, just never really got going, was towards the back of the pack. I had to steady at one point. Now I love the addition of blinkers today, and just knowing that the barn does better second time out. It's also, to me, when you see a horse perform kind of lackluster in debut, see that the original rider is going to save a board. Maybe makes me think at least that this horse can really step up.
Yeah, got a deal. I think he'd run exceptionally well in there. It's a horse that, I used a little further down on my ticket. I did go with the number 3 with a first-time starter, so there is some guesswork there. And this is Son of Noble Bird, debuting for Bobby DeBona with a series of really solid workouts showing over the main track. Bobby DeBona, solid. It's not his game, but he's had a couple of first-time starters win recently. I think he's 3 for 8 or 2 for 7 or something like that, counting the one last Sunday, which was very impressive. And he's got Lionel Reyes named to ride. So I wasn't sold on any of the previous starters, so I went with a first-time starter.
Hey, I don't mind it. You mentioned first-time starters. The last couple, they've been pretty good with 2-year-olds, 20%. When you kind of look across your form, you see the numbers. Bobby DeBona, red hot, does really well with his 2-year-olds. First off the claim, you name it, kind of a wears all the hats quite well. And then Lionel Reyes, that's one of his go-to riders. They're 27% here at Gulfstream Park. It is the first-time starter by Noble Bird, looking at the mare side, a Deputy Wildcat mare by the name of Ashley River. Obviously, that's why you picked this one. But she was a stakes winner on the turf at actually Calder back in the day. So works are good enough to suggest this one's got some potential.
And number 2, I have in third, and you have in second. And make it big. It's $120,000 son, a Neolithic debuting from Mr. Safi Joseph Jr. Nice workouts on this horse.
Very nice workouts. You mentioned a pricey purchase when you kind of look at the others in the field. And I actually talked to Safi Joseph Jr. the other day, and we always joke, always give him really good stats, maybe not firsters. And he told me, I'm always just happy when they have a really good learning experience. That's his goal with the debut. So maybe he doesn't have them cranked up to 100% on debut, wants to use it as a learning experience. Now I look at these works. These works have gotten the last 3 sharper and sharper. You mentioned 59 and 4 here just 6 days ago. So I like this one. I think there's probably some potential here. Use it for second, though, just knowing that the 5 has some race day experience.
Yeah, Edgar Zayas will be in the saddle. Risk versus Reward has been training forwardly in preparation for that first start since facing a strong group of next out winners, including multiple stakes winner Octane, of course, who won the Florida Cyrus Stakes Series here in his debut during June. It is Carlos David. He's really sharp with maidens making their second start. And, it's a son of Practical Joke, and he was sort of flattered with running in that same race with Octane.
Like how you said really sharp. 38% sharp with maiden second time out. This is actually a homebred for Palm Beach Racing. It didn't really show much on the debut, but you kind of look at those top 3. I like fishing for fun, but Octane ends up winning 2 of the 3 Florida Cyrus Stakes, the ones that he participated in. Lightning Larry was a pretty good performance there. So got to think that was a learning experience. And then the other thing, rider change today at Misael Jaramillo, 30% with Carlos.
Yeah, son of Practical Joke. Let's go to race number 7 this afternoon, and this one is a mile on the main track. Claim is 3 and up, non-winners of 2, 6,250. I had Heart 10 on top, who scratched out. I don't know if you did too.
I did not. This is where my long shot's going to be here in the late pick 4. I like the number 2, Camp Pendleton, 10-1 on the morning line. With this being a $6,250 claimer, non-winners of 2 life, I don't think, these horses, there's no one that's really proven themselves yet. So I went with the price in here. Broke his maiden last time out. Also used the 6, Macho Real, and the 9, God's Blessing, who I think you use on top. Yeah. Race 8, I just went too deep in the overnight handicap. 5.5 furlongs over the Tapeta. I think it's between the 5, Harry's on the Loose, looking for 3 in a row, and the 6, Wind of Change, who's going to try a bit of a different surface today. Then race 9, I spread in here. I used 3, the 4, New York Style, the 5, Free Flay, and the 7, Swaggy George. Then to wrap things up, I am all over the place. I believe you used the 3, Classic Film, and the 7, Eye of the Temple in your Rainbow 6, but I also used the number 4, Anything But Subtle, and the 8, a first-time starter for Jeff Engler by the name of Raising Moon. So $36. I went a little deeper in the late pick 4.
Well, when I mentioned my Rainbow 6, the races that scared me were 9 and 10 because there was only 2 in each of those, and I agree with you in that last race. Bunch of ways you can go. As I mentioned, had to scratch a Heart 10, so I moved up God's Blessing, who's going to depart from the outside today. solid effort at this level and distance in which he dueled throughout. He finished that drifting second. He was beating a length going 8 furlongs on the sealed sloppy track for Enrique Torres. I think maybe this horse can run okay this afternoon. Am I sold on it? No, I really like hard 10 in this spot.
Yeah, I'm not sold on God's blessing either because I'll say last time out, you mentioned drifted out, pretty good performance. It was still a field of 9, but it was over the slop. And he's actually 2 for 3 in the money over the wet dirt on a fast dirt track. He's only 1 for 5. Now 2 starts back, he was a game 4th. Who beat him? Kiger, who I think is a little bit better than this level. Hard 10. Samaranti, who came back to win next time out with Christian Torres in the saddle. So it seems like the 62.50 level has helped him some. I just wonder last time out, was it a slightly better performance due to the conditions?
I don't know if you're going to get any kind of price on
No.
Cam Pendleton in here with the scratch of the 7. This one's stepping up to face winners. You look, as you just alluded to, broke from that outside post, closed from last to defeat those maidens. Antonio Sano, Edgard's Eyes. I think this race with the scratch of the 7, it becomes a race where that horse can run really well.
Took him a while to break its maiden start number 12, and I will say they tried some different things. They had him in deeper waters, sprinting, and tried the turf, and then they decided we're going to stretch him out. And since stretching out to the mile, he's been a stronger horse. Last time out, he circled most of the field. He went wide in there. He was simply much the best. He was at a big price. The 3rd place finisher, Wild Texas Tom, came back to win next time out. I love seeing Edgar Zayas ride for Antonio Sano. Yeah, probably not getting 10 to 1, but I'm going to be hoping and praying that I do.
Yeah, and this is the type of race where these horses win. Eastern Symphony, I thought was a little interesting in here. I think should improve. This was last race was only its first time ever over this track. Shipped in from the Midwest and Kentucky tracks. Tracked the pace that they finished 6th. I think he improves the second race over the track. He's got to deal with the Florida humidity, coming from the Midwest. I mean, he got chances to work up there, but maybe this horse improves a little bit. Maybe for the Tryon Super at 10 to 1 on the morning line.
I think he's sneaky. You mentioned he was in, Kentucky. He was at Churchill. He was at Keeneland. Then we didn't see him from April to September. Makes that first start. Gets bumped around, and the big thing is he had to race over the slot for the first time. Maybe he didn't like it. He's going to get, hopefully, we don't get rain by that point. Hopefully it gets on a fast main track here, and this is certainly a room for improvement. Just suck it off. The barn is 19%.
Let's go to race number 8 this afternoon. It's our feature race, about 5.5 furlongs on the Topita handicap. 3 and up, $60,000. The Oakland Park, no scratches, jockey changes. Let's go back and we both have Harry's on the list. Let's go back and visit its last race back on September 19, picking up the 316 home when Harry tips out 4 wide and closes the score. And Romero also in this race, who comes behind him. But I just thought it was a real nice performance by. You'll see him tipping out here, and he just runs a great race. But he's so game, this horse.
He does, and he's not tall when you look at the other horse in the field, but he does have a long stride. He uses all of his body to get there, and he ends up doing that. So he's going to try to go for 3 in a row today, but I think he was a great claim for $35,000, and he's already won 3 races on the year.
Yeah, and Romero was the 4 horse in that race that came and just wanted to point that out. So that horse ran well, too. So Harry's on the loose. He debuts a pair of, we showed you, Stalk and Pounce wins, Son of Uncaptured, should handle the synthetic surfaces, and I think he sits a really nice trip behind the speed.
Yeah, he doesn't need the lead. He doesn't really even want the lead, but he should just be a couple of lengths off the pace setters, and with the way he's going, you can't take anything away from him. His form has been spot on, so to me, I think he can still kind of move up from there.
Yeah, Wind of Change, the Brazilian bred, is the son of forestry, trained by Safi. He's back locally. He finished 3rd up there at Saratoga in the Tail of the Cat. Then they shift him to Charlestown. He was 2nd in the Russell Road. Cuts back to 5. I think he's part of the pace this afternoon. And everybody seems to be leaning towards this horse.
Yeah, the big thing will be the surface, because he has 2 turf races under his belt. He's 0 for 2. Now he's going to try the synthetic for the first time. When you look at him, he's been in a lot of stakes, and man, he's got some frequent flyer miles under his belt as well. You mentioned was at Charlestown when he finished 2nd behind Vertical Threat. His last win came in the Mr. Prospector at Monmouth, so he's been all over the place. He looks to be quite quick, if you ask me as well.
Yeah, and your Romero, I'm glad you have him on your ticket too, right there.
Yeah.
He ran as good as Harry's on the loose, just didn't get there in time.
Yeah, looking at the others in here that we mentioned, Romario's going to be behind all of them. He's going to try to make up ground late. That's what he does every time. I mean, he ran one heck of a race last time out. I thought his race 3 starts back. Who beat him again? Harry's on the loose. He hasn't been able to kind of flip that table yet, but he's going to close from off of it, and kind of looking at the pace scenario in here, maybe he'll get some pace to run at.
The number 1 horse in here, Yes I Am Free, is the only participant in the field with an in-the-money finish on a synthetic surface. Goes to the Topita, rallied in the slop to score it in a 5 furlong overnight handicap. So maybe this horse has proven he's the only one in the whole field that's ever hit the board. So on a synthetic, maybe that's an angle you can use here in there. It's 4-1. He's actually only third choice.
Yeah, it's an interesting angle to point out. You mentioned has that synthetic experience, hit the board. My question for him is he's faced some others in here before, including Harry's on the loose, Romario, and on the turf against overnight handicaps. He hasn't been really necessarily able in his last couple to flip them tables on them. You mentioned he won last time out in an overnight handicap, but it was scheduled for the turf, moved to the slop. He's 2 for 2 on the wet main track. So we'll see. I still think if he's going to beat the others in here, he's going to need to improve.
I think we were sort of in agreement in race number 9 with the 6 furlong claimer, 3 or 4 and up. No, what is it, 320 down to 16? It's sort of in agreement. I remember when you were talking about your ticket in there. We'll start with your horse in here, Free Flay, wheeling back after vying for the lead last time out along the inside. He was game. He finished that hard forward second, going 6 for Sandra Slifka. And how about Rajiv Mirage? He had a 3-win day yesterday.
Yeah, he had a huge day. And I think for me, Free Flay, 9-2 on the morning line, maybe a little pricier than a couple others in here. Like the performance last time out, a good second over the mud. Prior to that, maybe the waters were too deep. But when this one won 3 starts back, he beat Palladio. Is actually 3-1 on the morning line. Draws the rail in this spot. Pretty consistent. He just had that one poor effort 2 starts back this year, and that was against Teffer.
Yeah, we have same tried this thereabouts. I went with New York Style, the number 4 is turning back to 6. On the main track after following a couple of solid efforts on the dirt during the spring. Slow starting clunker going 7.5 on the turf during July. I'm putting a line. Look at this very limited sampling on Happy Alta. He's 3 for 8 with the turf to dirt angle with Edwin Gonzalez in the saddle.
Yeah, and he's 1 for 2. Edwin doesn't necessarily ride for the connections that often, but 1 for 2 from that small sampling. Last time out, draw a line through the turf race. Going into that race, he'd only had 1 of 3 on the board finishes on the grass. My concern is, you mentioned the cutback, which he does have some early foot, likes to be forwardly placed and sometimes backs up, but he is just 1 for 4 at the distance. With that said, though, that's a while ago that he was actually racing at 6 furlongs. I mean, the closest one that I can find is over a year ago here at Gulfstream Park, so maybe he's a different horse now.
And what about our buddy Swaggy George, the number 7, is dropping to the 20 level today?
Hey, he had to face a nice horse last time out, Cozy My Boy. It was his first time getting Lasix in his career, and he was the pace setter in there, and he tired. It was his first start off the break, so the connections are about 12%. Second off the layoff, Miguel Vasquez jumping in the irons today. This horse has run well at the distance as well, going to cut back from that mile to 6 furlongs, and I think that's key with him.
The finale today, about a mile 70 yards under to Peter. Maiden claiming 2-year-olds, $35,000. We both have number 3 classic film on top, stretching out to that distance after responding to a drop down in competition. I thought ran okay. Well meant second against 35 maidens going a mile. That was on a good turf course that afternoon.
Yeah, he tried to engage there, but just couldn't get the job done. Second best in that field. I think the drop was the key thing there. Kent Sweezy, I know you like one of his horses earlier on the card, Super Jaguar. He had a win yesterday, and I believe he had a win the day before. So the barn's been doing really well here in South Florida, and obviously staying at this level, this is the right move.
And the number 7 Eye of the Temple is listed as a gelding today. Moves to the Peter. Duel throughout. Finished second, beating a length against 35 maidens. That was for Antonio. Already has a couple of victories on the Tapeta. The barn does. Gadiel Martinez in the saddle.
Yeah, this is one that they had higher hopes for. You can see debuted twice against maiden special weight competition, trying to get her on the turf, or him on the turf, I should say, but had to race on the dirt in both of those. It's a half to Katie's Eyes, who's a multiple stakes winner, was actually graded stakes place. Finished second in the Highland up at Woodbine, going 6 furlongs on the turf. So interesting. Going to go a little longer. Last time out, though, pretty good second, and now a first-time gelding.
The number 1, Machisto, is a Son of Honor Code debuting for Safi, and that should be more than enough to pique your interest to put this horse somewhere in the Trier Super.
As I said, he uses these as a learning experience on debut. He's debuting at the maiden claiming level, 18% with that angle. I will say the one thing I saw, debuting at distances greater than a mile, 8%. So that's one of the lower Safi stats that I've seen. So I didn't use this one. I go to the before anything but subtle. Edgar Zayas in the irons for Armando de la Cerda, who ran a pretty good third last time out at the level, but it was on the dirt.
Well, that's how we see the 10 races. Now we'll go to our lightning round. We're going to stock lightning round this afternoon. It is now afternoon. It's 12:29. And we'll start it off a little later on today. We talked about this. Let's show you the field for today's features race, the Oakland Park. And as we mentioned, I think you're right. It's between Harry's on the Loose and Wind of Change. But Moro Mario, that's the sneaky in the race for me.
You know, the one horse we didn't talk about is Full Meanie, who's had some big performances as well. So when I look at this field, I mean, it's pretty wide open top to bottom.
We got a couple of our top jockeys going to head to Kentucky tomorrow, and that's Edgar Zayas and Edwin Gonzalez. They're going to go and ride in the Grade 2 Bourbon at Keeneland on Sunday.
Yeah, Edwin has a mount. I know Edgar Zeiss has a couple mounts, and it looks like he's staying till Wednesday because I saw him listed on some horses there at Keeneland on Wednesday. So we'll see how they do. Obviously rooting for them. I believe Edwin Gonzalez is riding for Mark Cassie Credibility, who won here and then was fourth in a small stake here as well.
And we put out yesterday the release of our championship meet stake schedule, $14.26 million. And how about this? The Florida Derby back to $1 million.
I think that's great. Back to $1 million. Our purses are higher than they were in the stakes overall when you kind of look at the schedule. Some of the 75,000, they're bumped up to 100 and vice versa. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the championship meet. But you mentioned $1 million for the Florida Derby.
And they added a new race, and that is on Pegasus Day for fillies and mares, $500,000 fillies and mares on the turf. So that is the addition to the Pegasus turf and, of course, the Pegasus World Cup. So that is going to be an incredible day. The Stronach 5, we showed you. We teased you a little bit. Let's show you once again. Just always pays amazing. This almost $11,500.
We need to do something in the office where we all chip in and start playing this, because I would have been happy if we split that, I don't know, 3 or 4 ways. That's a lot of money for a dollar pick 5.
I would be happy if we split it 10 ways. What are you kidding me? It's $1,000 each. Great name and a great kid. He's only 16-year-old apprentice. Bryson Butterfly won his first race up at Laurel. Yeah, he's just 16 years old. Of course, you see, he won it for a good connection. So I just think it's a great performance. 16 years old, and he's a Native American, and that's why the Butterfly, the last name. I love that name.
Yeah, he's from the state of Washington. You mentioned 16, won yesterday for Lacey Gaudette, but he was riding in Indiana Grand, Ellis a little bit. But he got to start more in quarter horses and thoroughbreds out at Grant Pass Downs out west. So great to have him on the East Coast and wish him more success.
Yeah, just 16 years old. I couldn't even tie my shoes at 16. So
You still can.
I still can. I wear loafers. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back for race number 1.
And they're off. Second in the 2-path.